And what's up everybody, and this is Danny reviewing the Sony Xperia Z smartphone. And this is the first smartphone from Sony this year, a flagship that features a 5-inch 1080p display, a 13 megapixel camera sensor, and all glass construction that is waterproof and dustproof. Is this your next phone? Let's find out now. The Sony Xperia Z is a very important device for Sony in 2013, and this is their first flagship of this year, and it packs some important specifications. It is powered by a quad-core processor, has a 5-inch 1080p reality display, and a 13 megapixel camera, but most importantly, it is made to be ruggedized. It is fully waterproof and dustproof, and it's one of the first phones without a crazy fat rubbery coating around to be completely waterproof. And as you can see, you can leave it in the rain and you can submerge it up to 1 meter for 30 minutes and it's completely dustproof. And in my testing and in my video, which you can check out, it is definitely waterproof. Thanks to its all glass design and industrial design, the Sony Xperia Z really does stick out. And I've had people ask me, man, what phone is that? For it really looks different than most phones that are out there. It's squared, it's not rounded, and it is definitely a unique looking device when you take a look at it. It runs Android 4.1 Jelly Bean with Sony's custom UI, and it features LTE connectivity for worldwide use, but in the US, it only is restricted to HSPA Plus on AT&T. No doubt looking at this though that the build quality is definitely unique and is very nice. That power button is amazing, very tactile, and from the dominating glass of the front 5-inch reality display to the front-facing HD camera and the multicolor LED notification light, it is definitely a good-looking device. And it also features a micro SD card slot up to 64 gigs. Yes, it does work. You just have to format it. And it comes with a 13 megapixel Exmor R sensor that can shoot 1080p HDR video simultaneously. And it is a pretty good camera, so check my camera video out to see sample images and 1080p video. So the splash screen is very cool, but this shows you the color replication on the mobile Bravia 2 engine, and when you're looking at media content on this screen, it looks very, very good. And you can see here on the photos that the screen is very, very sharp. The colors are oversaturated though with the Bravia engine, but definitely looking at pictures on the phone is much better than when you take it off. And a lot of other people will tell you that have used this device because the pictures look great on the screen. They look a lot better than when you export them out. But you can see right here, zoom works well, very responsive touchscreen, and it's very sharp because it has a very high pixel per inch density and the colors are very good. And in daylight, it's definitely not the brightest screen I've ever seen, but it definitely gets the job done. And this screen is good, but it does have its faults. And let me tell you why. Compared to other phones out there that are 1080p in quality, this thing has terrible viewing angles. And some people will say, oh, well, I don't really care about viewing angles because I'm not looking at the screen that way. But this is a flagship device and there is no excuse for it to not have good viewing angles. And Sony has definitely made better screens than this. And look at it towards the Oppo Find 5. The Oppo Find 5 has a IPS display where the Sony has a TFT display, and it makes a lot of difference on the actual viewing angle. And if you look at it straight on, it looks good, but look at how washed out it gets when you're just looking at it from just a different angle on the Sony Xperia Z, and it's really unacceptable for a flagship device. By no means is it a terrible display, but it just should have better viewing angles for sure. So let's talk about the call quality on this phone. I found that the call quality was pretty good on this phone. The distinct voices were good, the opposite side was good, and it was very clear, but the speaker piece is very small and it shows. It really is not that loud, and the speaker piece is exactly the same. Speakerphone seems a little muddy, and it's definitely not as loud as you want it to be. And maybe it has to do with the speaker placement, but it's definitely not the best phone I've used on call quality, but it gets the job done. It just does not have phenomenal call quality, but I don't think you'll have a problem with it whatsoever. But speed test wise, I was limited to HSPA Plus in the United States. For your international folks, you will definitely be enjoying some LTE, especially if you're in Europe and other places. But I found that the AT&T speeds were okay. There is a version out there, I think it's the 6603 that does, or 6602. There is one of them that actually gets T-Mobile HSPA Plus as well, and I think it's also under testing for T-Mobile. But speed-wise, it was decent on the HSPA side, but the one thing is that the reception on this phone is fantastic. It's phenomenal. I have had full bars almost all the time, and it definitely is a leader in signal strength. As I was saying before, this thing runs Android 4.1, and you can see that Sony has put a custom layer on here with the multitasking, and it also has these cool things called small apps. And they're just little recorders, note-taking things, and calculators that just kind of go on top of the screen. And Samsung has done this too with pop-up apps, I think. But you can get more as well. If you hit plus right here, you can get more small apps. And I think I would like to see some more small apps that are a little bit more innovative, but they definitely work and add value to your software experience. I really like their widgets as well. They're very clean here, like this little toggle widget. I really like that too. The folders are nice, and you do get some Sony proprietary stuff in here, but that's what's good about Sony phones, for they hold an ecosystem as well of videos and music and things like that. They're social, and if you really like Sony or you're a fan of Sony's UI, then you're really gonna like this one, for it's the most minimalistic Sony UI, very, very close to the stock experience, and it's very fluid and quick. I really, really like the way their UI looks, even to this music player here. Very simplified, but I really like the look of it, and this Walkman app works really, really well. And if you look at some of their other ones, like their movies, I really like how it kind of shows the movie playing in the back. That's really cool. I mean, little touches like that, Sony really has done a good job with this UI. And I think you will really enjoy it. For people that really like the stock experience but just want a little bit more with their software, you're really going to like it. And the widgets are very clean as well. They're not gaudy at all. And the app tray is very stock-like. But it's awesome how you can sit here and put them in alphabetical order, or most used or recently installed. That's very nice as well. Uninstall is just one click away. And I really like the way they did their Sony UI this time. A lot of you remember Timescape, and it was pretty terrible. So here is a way to customize, and I really like it. They really give you a lot of customization options. I really like the wallpapers here, where you can hit the wallpapers and kind of preview it there. Very good. The wallpapers are really high res. They look really good on this screen. And I like the way that you can set themes for your Xperia phone. And that's one thing that Sony's always accelerated on. And your toggles here up top, there's only 5 of them though. I wish there was a little bit more, but there's a shortcut right to the settings there. So I think you will enjoy this UI. And if you don't, you can always change the launcher. That's Android for you. So let's take a look at this weird speaker placement if you're right-handed. And let me just show you, I'm not going to even talk, but if you're right-handed, this is going to be kind of a problem for you, for it was a problem for me.
Xperia Z, and they claim that it is waterproof right out of the box. Let's see how waterproof it is. Let's go ahead and test it out. The Sony Xperia Z features a full glass build that is dustproof.
Just holding it normally can block the speaker. And I think that's just a weird placement for a speaker. I guess if you're left-handed though, then it would be absolutely no problem. For you don't have a problem with that with your left-handed all. But I know on the Xperia P, they put the speaker on the top right, which makes more sense. But I guess if you're looking at it in a landscape mode like this, then it would fire up. So I guess you wouldn't have a problem with it. But I just wanted you guys to know about that speaker placement, because I think it's kind of silly. I mean, what do you guys think? Leave a comment in the comment section below, for I think some people might not care and some people will. But let's check out the 13 megapixel camera here, and for the most part it's really, really good. And you can see here the superior auto and all these different camera functions and options. Sony's always been good with their camera UI, and a lot of their features are being ported over from their NEX lines, which I think that's pretty cool. And you got the scenes here, Superior Auto, which really works good most of the time for you to take a good picture. It takes pretty good macro pictures as long as it's a big object. And feel free to take a look at my sample images and video. It's a pretty extensive look at the HDR function versus non-HDR on video, and a lot of sample stills from indoor to outdoor shots. So definitely check that out. I'll put a link in the top here, so go ahead and click on that. But your Superior Auto is really good, and it really does take pretty good pictures. You have fast shutter here, and it does take pretty good pictures, very responsive. The only thing is sometimes that when you launch the camera app, it'll kind of stall for a minute, or it can take a while to open it. So that's the only bad thing. The camera UI can get a little bit laggy, but for the most part, the camera works very, very well, and I don't think you will be disappointed with this shooter. It's not the best camera that I've tested on a mobile device, but it definitely holds its own versus the great 8 megapixel cameras out there on the market today. Now, this device is being powered by a Snapdragon S4 Pro quad-core system-on-chip with the Adreno 320 graphics, and it is pretty good on synthetic benchmarks. Remember, benchmarks don't tell you everything, but it just kind of tells you how it compares to other devices, and it does pretty good on Quadrant, and it does pretty good on Antutu and the other synthetic benchmarks out there. 7,681. That's not bad. But how does it do on gaming? Let's check it out now. Even graphically intensive games like Ravensword do really well on the Xperia Z. And you can see here it looks great on that 1080p display, and you don't see many hiccups at all. It's buttery smooth on here, and I don't think you'll have any problems playing the latest games, and it really works well with a Bluetooth controller. But there's only one thing on this device, is that where the power button kind of lies with the volume buttons too, it can be awkward with the clips on the Bluetooth device. It still works, but sometimes you might have to place it a little bit differently, maybe a little bit to the left. Overall, the Sony Xperia Z is a good phone. It's a solidly constructed device and is definitely unique in design language, and I definitely applaud them for taking a stand on the design elements here and going off with the squared edges and really making this phone look different. And I really wanted to like this phone, and I still do, and I think it's a good phone, but the 1080p display is definitely lacking here. And the glass design is good and bad in a way. For it definitely makes it feel decent and solid in the hand, but it is a fingerprint magnet, and this is very reminiscent to the iPhone 4, 4S. I mean, that's the way it feels in your hand, but much larger, and it definitely feels slippery sometimes, and it gets really greasy. I mean, don't get me wrong, this screen is sharp when you're looking at it dead on, and it's definitely got some sharp text and good crisp color and details, but it's definitely unacceptable on viewing angles, and you'll see what I mean. Go see one in the store and let me know what you think. So battery life though is definitely been pretty impressive. If you keep your screen on auto dim, you can definitely make it through all day. And the only time is when I've had the screen on the brightest setting. It definitely sucks up the battery, but that's exactly what you would expect from a 1080p display of that size. But definitely they give you some software help here with power management, and that works with stamina mode as well, and that will help you get through your battery. And I didn't have a problem at least making it through 10 o'clock at night. So usually I made it about 10 to 12 hours on this battery with moderate use. So I think a lot of people will be able to be okay using it day to day without plugging it in. But if you're a really heavy user, you may need to plug it in early in the nighttime. A larger battery and a better 1080p screen would definitely make this a better flagship. So I like this phone, but you definitely need to go check this phone out versus the competition before you buy this phone. We have the HTC One X and the Galaxy S4 and the Apple Find 5 out there, and I definitely think you should take a look at them before you buy this device. So please subscribe to my channel today and follow me on Twitter at SuperScientific. Thank you for watching my videos, and I will see you in the next one.